This week on Illegal Aliens, Liz misses watching an episode of Biography, Michael drives an inflatable alien across the state line, and Maria shows us how to flirt using a sugar canister. Grab something extremely sweet mixed with extremely spicy because we're looking at episodes 6 and 7 of Season 1 of Roswell, 285 South and Riverdog.
I'm Claire, and this is Illegal Aliens, a Roswell podcast. 285 South first aired on November 10th, 1999.
It was written by Thania St. John, who we last saw writing episode 2 the morning after, and William Sind, who doesn't have many other credits, but he was a staff writer for The West Wing and a story editor for True Calling.
285 South was directed by Arvin Brown, who has 3 Tony Award nominations in the mid-1970s and has worked as a director on about 50 series, including The Practice, Everwood, Loveridge, and NCIS. Let's start the recap for 285 South.
Michael sneaks into the UFO Center late at night to find out more about Atherton. Everything seems fine, but the owner, Milton Ross, is sleeping in his office and wakes when the printer starts beeping. Confronted with a plastic rocket, Michael says it's all a mistake, but Deputy Owen, with a gun trained on Michael, agrees.
In history class, our heroes are paired up for an interview assignment with a highly personal questionnaire. Max and Kyle, Isabel and Liz, and Maria and Michael. No one is happy with the pairings, and Max is pulled away to vouch for Michael at the sheriff's station.
Max says Michael came by the UFO Center to collect research for a school project, not to steal anything. He offers to work off any damages, and Michael is let go without charges. Once they leave, Owen hands Valenti a copy of Michael's printout about Atherton.
Isabel is upset about Michael's arrest, but Michael is determined to reach Marathon, Texas, and find Atherton's geodesic dome house. Max refuses to lend Michael the Jeep, and after he storms off, tells Isabel that he won't get far without a car.
In the parking lot, Maria surprises Michael with every question she can remember from the assignment. Michael has no time for her until he notices her car keys and offers to answer the questions if she takes him on a ride to the highway.
At the crashdown, the others are also struggling with the assignment. Liz watches Max and Kyle, then brings over a bottle of ketchup at Isabel's suggestion. Kyle takes it and asks Max if he has ever been in love, as per question 8. Max says no.
Meanwhile, Maria is finding Michael's answers unconvincing and decides out loud to make them up herself, which he's fine with. When Maria goes to get payment for her mother's delivery, Michael takes over the driver's seat. Just before he drives away, Maria rushes back in and says that she's coming with the car. Michael shrugs and drives away.
Maria manages to surreptitiously call Liz on her cell phone, provide a few warning clues to her situation before Michael notices something wrong about what she's saying and destroys the phone, tossing the pieces out the window. Isabel overhears Liz's reaction to the unusual phone call, puts the pieces together, and pulls Max away from Kyle's questionnaire to go after Michael. Liz says that she's coming too, as Maria is her friend, and the three of them drive off, followed by one of Topolsky's backup agents.
In the car, Michael and Maria bicker. When a cop pulls Michael over for speeding, he shows Maria the printout, and Maria improvises a cover story about needing a restroom really urgently.
Kyle tries to call Liz and gradually realizes that Maria, Max, and Isabel are also missing with flimsy cover stories. Valenti overhears, and after a brief chat, heads back to the station.
While Isabel and Liz wait at a gas station, Liz tries to make peace, saying she couldn't take Max away from his sister even if she wanted to. Max suspects that they're being tailed and hurries everybody back to the Jeep, using his abilities to deflate the tires of the unmarked FBI car.
Further along the road, Maria's car starts to break down. She urges Michael to fix it, but after confessing his problems with controlling his abilities, Michael tries anyway and makes everything worse.
In his office, Valenti asks the highway patrol about the Evans' Jeep, but they can only tell him about Michael's speeding ticket in Maria's car. Valenti tracks Road 285 south from Roswell, seeing how it leads to Marathon.
Michael leads the way to a motel, but Maria isn't satisfied and finds many more things to complain about, until the two of them bond briefly over their dreams of a better life, far from Roswell.
Stuck at a road closure, Liz asks Max if he thinks it's still a good idea to stay away from each other. Isabel spots Maria's car in the motel nearby.
They find Michael and Maria's room. Max and Michael argue about Michael's impulsiveness. Kyle bursts into the room next, demanding his own answers and Liz's safe return also.
Liz tells Kyle that this is none of his business, infuriating him, but he leaves. Liz turns to Max and insists on the full story so that she and Maria can protect themselves and help their friends. Isabel agrees and they explain about Atherton and the geodesic dome. Liz urges them on to find it together.
When they arrive, all are struck by the resemblance to Michael's drawing, but the key doesn't turn in the front door lock. Max unlocks the door with his powers, revealing decrepit ruins inside the dome. Michael picks up the key to trigger another flash. At first nothing happens, but when Maria steps near him and pushes him to try again, he sees a hidden room.
They discover a lock in the wall, and this time the key works, revealing a trapdoor to the secret room. Once inside, they hear someone entering the dome, Sheriff Valenti approaching. Topolsky kicks him in the head, and he falls to the floor.
And that's our to-be-continued cliffhanger moment, taking us to the next episode. Riverdog first aired on 17 November 1999.
Hey, that's my birthday! It was directed by Jonathan Frakes, well known as Number 1 Will Riker on Star Trek The Next Generation. Frakes was an executive producer for Roswell and appeared as himself several times, including in the pilot, where he was the MC for the Crash Festival. He's also worked as a director on many shows, including several Star Trek franchises, Leverage and Burn Notice.
Riverdog was written by Cheryl Kane, another writer who doesn't have that much on her IMDb resume. She was a writer and story editor for Firefly and a show called Threat Matrix. Let's start the recap.
Michael searches even as Topolsky discovers the hidden door. A rat startles Maria, nearly making her scream, but Liz follows the rat to a tunnel. The kids flee up the tunnel, taking boxes of Atherton's research and leaving Topolsky behind.
At home again, Isabel finds a photo of a bad Florida holiday and urges Max to recreate a symbol they drew in the sand. He does, and she reveals it to be the same as the symbol on Atherton's pendant.
Maria and Liz discuss Michael, but Liz has to go off to talk to Kyle, wanting to make sure he won't tell anyone about their secret road trip. Ominously, Kyle says he'll keep quiet until he has info that will destroy Max.
Agent Stevens calls Topolsky, unhappy about her failure to keep the investigation secret, but then tells her to get whatever the kids got from the secret room by any means necessary.
At the UFO Center, Valenti interrupts Milton in a lecture on alien relics and asks him about Atherton. Milton says he disappeared in November 1959, and Valenti starts to wonder about the dead body in his photograph.
In the Jeep, Michael casually suggests including Maria in the research, but drops the subject quickly. When they arrive at the Evans house, it is swarming with police investigating a daylight robbery. The TV is gone, and so is all the boxes they took from Atherton's house.
As Owen takes Isabel's statement, he notices the pendant and asks where she got it. He hasn't seen one like it since his childhood on the Native American Reserve. Isabel says she picked it up at the mall, but does ask which reservation.
Above the crashdown, the group fret about the break-in and that they might be being followed. Michael also recognizes the pendant. Isabel tells him what she discovered from Owen, and Michael is ready to race off to the reservation, but Max forbids doing anything to attract more suspicion.
Valenti confronts Topolsky, asking about the burglary, and they talk obliquely about meeting at Atherton's.
Liz comes to Max's room to tell him she's going to the reserve. She's worried that next time it will be Max, not the files people are after. He saved her life once, and now she wants to help. Max says no, but Liz isn't asking permission. She wants the pendant to show someone, but will go without it if necessary. Max gives it to her.
At the reserve, Liz asks the woman working the gift shop what the pendant might mean, but she's never seen it before. An old man, Riverdog, sees the pendant and is anxious to know who else knows about it. When Liz asks its meaning, he says the symbol is dangerous and brings death. The following day, though, he sends word to Liz via a young messenger, Eddie, come alone to the reserve at 10 that evening.
While Isabel, Michael, and Maria wait and bicker, Eddie leads Max and Liz to a cave. Liz screams as somebody grabs her, but when Max produces light to see by, Riverdog tells them they've passed the test.
Over drinks, the sheriff asks Topolsky why an FBI agent is working at the local high school. He threatens to call her superiors, but Topolsky says that would take her off the case and proposes a trade of information. Valenti says he'll consider it.
Riverdog tells Max and Liz he once knew an alien. He trusted only Riverdog and Atherton, and gave Atherton the pendant. But when they asked what happened to Atherton, Riverdog says the alien killed him in November 1959.
After Isabel leaves the crash down, Maria frets and tells Michael he's the last person to be around in a crisis. He kisses her, then says it was just meant to calm her down.
Riverdog leads Max and Liz to a cave covered in symbols similar to the one on the pendant. The alien made Riverdog promise to pass on the knowledge of the cave to anyone who came after and passed the test. Now he has kept that promise.
Right. So obviously there's a lot that's going on here. Do you have something you want to start the discussion with?
Oh, gracious. Where to start? I don't know.
I kind of feel like starting at the end with Riverdog himself because he's a fascinating character and really the first almost to give us a perspective on the alien's past because he's the one who actually knows something.
Yes, we've been getting this sense sort of seeded throughout the episodes, haven't we? That the aliens have almost, I don't know, repressed memories? Is that quite right? As if they're tapping into a signal that's beginning to release knowledge slowly, and Riverdog suddenly lands them with a whole lot of it.
Right, yes.
In a way that allows them to begin to understand what they're remembering.
Yeah, I think I would kind of say that more than information or memory at this point, they're just kind of tapping into an instinct.
Yes, that's a much better word, actually. Because it's not anything concrete, is it? It's pieces of stuff.
Right. But just kind of following through Riverdog and his almost contradictions at this point, I find it fascinating that he has this story of mutual trust between himself and the stranger in Atherton that was completely broken when he witnessed the stranger killing Atherton.
Yes, and
yet he still feels moved to follow through on this promise that he made.
He does, and I mean, I find it very interesting what he says to Liz at the end, too. He turns around and says, make sure he's worth it.
Yes.
Because, obviously...
And Liz doesn't hesitate to go with Max there, yeah.
No, not at all. Although I suppose that's part of the discussion they have earlier in the car about not all of them being all the same.
Right.
But Riverdog, I don't know. What do you make of the Liz being warned off of him to start with?
Of the young woman who tells him...
Yes, the gift shop.
Yeah. It makes sense kind of both as a trope for the story that we're telling and in terms of kind of the backstory that we established because, you know, he kind of seems to be almost the crazy old man of the local area.
He does. He turns up lurking in the shadows. He says that thing you're holding, it means death, and then he melts away.
Yes, and I kind of think that feeds in nicely with the notion of following up on this promise because he has no idea who he's looking for. So any stranger who comes to the reservation, he has to be wondering, okay, is this the person who I have to test?
Yes. Shall we talk about the test? What do you think it is? Because it seems to be Max producing the light.
Yes.
Is that...
Yes, specifically kind of creating the sense of danger and darkness, though I don't know if it's how much that was done on the fly or something.
Yeah.
But specifically kind of that they're given, I think, the flashlight, which then burns out quickly or something, which has to be deliberate.
Oh, it must be. But I mean, talk about a tremendous risk. We know that he took a risk in healing Liz, but here he is, casually almost, producing light for a total stranger.
Yeah.
They're not even sure Riverdog's an ally. They just know he has knowledge.
Right. Yes. Kind of to a certain extent, if Max had been more conventionally resourceful in that moment, if he had had a lighter in his pocket and been able to use that to check on Liz instead of using his powers, he would have failed the test.
Yes. There's something, I mean, I doubt it's deliberate, but there's something almost biblical in that, the bit about, I am the truth, the light, the way.
Yes. Yes.
As he does that.
The light that shines in the darkness.
Yes. Which is interesting because we've talked before a bit about Max and that almost godlike ability to heal, and yet the way they temper it.
Right.
So interesting to see it recur again.
Yeah.
Liz tends to bring that out, apparently.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I was definitely moved by that, and also kind of by the diffidence that Riverdog has at the end of it, both warning Liz off after he's completed his promise and telling them that there's nothing more, that he has no more secrets to reveal, which is not quite true, I think, although we don't know that at this point.
No, skipping a bit ahead there, but definitely.
True, yes.
Yeah.
He does protest a little bit too much.
Just a bit, although he's not the only one in this episode. This couple of episodes, even, yeah. But no, Riverdog, I don't think it's spoiling too much to say he does recur.
Yes. I was a little bit... I found something to do with the progression at the reservation a little bit jarring. And I think part of it is that Liz blunders so quickly from somebody who knows absolutely nothing at all about the design to the one person who knows the most about it in so short a time.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if that was a case of somebody looked at the minute mark and went, oh gosh, we need an end of this episode, quickly, quickly, or
right.
What there, or if they just needed somebody who could exposit, but she does rapidly.
Yes, and the idea that Riverdog was kind of waiting for a stranger makes that a little bit better as headcanon, but I would have liked something, I guess, a little bit more in the text, if that's supposed to be the explanation. But I was wondering exactly how it is that Deputy Owen recognized the design, except that the plot required it, that he recognize it and direct Isabel appropriately.
I mean, I wonder if he was... I've always sort of headcanoned that he skulked around caves, and so maybe saw Atherton at a distance?
Possibly.
But yeah, that also isn't text. That's my spin on it.
Yeah, another possibility is that either Riverdog or somebody else at the time got a good look at the pendant, did start doing original art using the same design, but that fad
died out. Clearly because it didn't stick in the artwork, because that gift shop woman goes, well, it's old. Don't really know anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking it might be just as effective and more evocative if the woman says, oh yeah, I recognize this from what my mom used to make. She had, 2 or 3 different interpretations for it. I have no idea which of them is real.
The person you need to talk to is Riverdog. Yeah, that would almost work better, I think.
Yes.
One hoop less or something. Just...
Yeah.
Yeah. The simplest explanation, always.
Yes.
But then so easy to look back retrospectively and say that.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I suppose, alternatively, Liz went away and did research, being the person she is, but I'm not sure where she's doing it.
True. Yeah, I also thought it was a little bit odd in the sequence of Riverdog confronts her the first time she comes to the reservation, asks her about the design and about who else knows about it, and for some reason he doesn't seem to feel that he has any compulsion to put her through the test right at that point.
No. And it's bizarre, too, that Liz doesn't... I mean, maybe she's afraid to say anyone else knows. That's entirely possible.
Right.
But she kind of stutters and stammers over, I know, Max knows, no, only I know.
Yeah.
And since she's got to bring Max back there anyway, it would almost work better to just say, well, one other person.
Yeah. Except possibly it's because she has it so ingrained in her head that she is going here, she is taking this risk so that Max doesn't have to.
Yes, and yet, had she done that without him, she would have failed the test.
She definitely would have.
And I'm not really sure what would happen. I mean, maybe Riverdog would let her go, but that cave felt really ominous.
Right. No, I don't think that there was meant to be any menace. It was just supposed to be to create enough of the illusion of menace to
spook Max into acting, yeah.
Get a real alien to instinctively create the light without thinking, is this a good idea?
I think you're right. I mean, we're very much channeling a noir novel. a noir story generally
Yes.
this week.
Yes.
Which, might actually, as I think about it, account for Liz's bizarre epiphany. It might be playing to the cocktail room reveal.
Oh.
Rather clumsily, but the sort of aha moment in which you go, well, A happened and then B happened and C did this and told
Right.
E who uncovered... Yeah.
Right.
That might be the reference. Who knows?
Possibly. So yeah, I think this may be on point with the noir. I really did love the whole involved chase sequence with Michael driving the Jeep to draw people away and Max and Liz sneaking through the movie theater and then meeting Maria in the back alley.
Did you see what was on at the movie theater?
No, I did not.
It was Alfred Hitchcock, the secret agent, and the lady vanishes.
Nice.
It was a nice touch.
Yes.
So that was fun. But yeah, no, I very much like that sequence too.
Yes, and the back and forth and banter between Valenti and Topolsky. Which
Yes, he's the gumshoe and she's still our femme fatale.
she is. And I have to admit, I love that line about how, it's funny how everybody seems to realize that they've taken the wrong tack when their cover's blown.
Yes. And I really like that he was finally calling out what we've been saying for ages. What is an FBI agent doing in our local high school?
Yep. Aside from working under drop kicks.
Yeah, and Tai Chi, I think?
Yes. Yeah, so I have to admit that Stevens did seem to be very all over the place in that phone call with her. In that first he was berating her for not being covert.
Yeah.
And then switched to get me those files by any means necessary.
But still covertly, I think.
Well, yeah.
So, a light touch of daylight robbery.
Yes.
Very covert, that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's true. I actually read it as thinking that, if he really means it, then that means, okay, since you can't do covert, then covert's out the window.
Oh, I like that. We're just deciding Topolsky is incompetent now. Why not?
Right.
Do you know what else confused me? It might have just been me. Is the history teacher a secret agent? Or is he just assigning a particularly personal questionnaire on Topolsky's advice?
Yeah, I took it as meaning that he was just willing to take her input on and basically let her run that one assignment in his class.
Okay, it was the way he conferred with her afterwards. I thought, oh,
yeah,
that's a bit cozy. But that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, I do love all of the back and forthing about the assignment in the first bit, though it's a little funny how quickly it's dropped once we get to the deity's ignominy. It's clear that nobody cares anymore.
Yes, Maria's not getting an F on that assignment, but then Michael quoted Ulysses, so,
Yes.
bonus marks for that, I guess?
Yes. At some point, I found out that the full handwritten version of all three of those assignments were posted on silverhandprint.com, which was a site that was actually run by the producers of the show and has some very interesting behind-the-scenes stuff.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And before the site got shut down, it was mirrored in one of the Roswell fan sites. So I'll link to that in the show notes, I think. It's well worth going into. I took a quick look just to make sure that it was what I remembered and actually clicked on the paper that Michael turned in with Maria's answer, supposedly. Except he really didn't bother and just wrote whatever I don't care in every blank.
Of course he did.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. So, I thought it was interesting that in the episode that actually brings Agent Stevens back on screen, we have Valenti looking at the Atherton photo, which immediately made me think, didn't Stevens take all of his files?
You took the words out of my mouth. I thought they had all of his files, except for the thermos.
Yes.
I don't know. It's the mysterious teleporting photo.
Yes. I would think that the easiest headcanon was that a very few of the most important files he had backup copies at his home, and Stevens didn't get the warrant to search there.
That's entirely possible. Or maybe they sent some of them back once they just. Oh, I have no idea. I was going to say
No.
once they discovered there was only ketchup on the dress, but of course they discovered there was
Yes.
much more than that, so that theory scrapped.
Yes. Yes. And I think even just on point of principle, Stephen would not have sent anything back no matter what. He just didn't want to encourage
Oh, absolutely not.
Valenti to be alien hunting anymore.
Yes, unless he was being truly Machiavellian.
Yeah.
But we're not in that book this week, so.
No, we're not. And I'm not sure we will ever get to quite that level of machinations, even when we see some of the higher-ups compared to Stevens.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's all. We never quite reach Brothers Karamazov or anything like that.
Yes. Yes. I do love the scene with Valenti and Milton in the UFO center.
Yes. And the rather doomed projection slide.
Yes. Which you would think he should have known to turn off the lights at once rather than just leave them studying a slide indefinitely.
I don't know. We had a French teacher that used to do that. We'd periodically hear through the wall, "Send for Vishnu, it's on fire."
But yes, I love that line that, as a concerned scientist and a UFOologist, I have to ask, what's this all about?
I love that that's a thing, that there's in Roswell universe a division of study that specializes in extraterrestrials and UFOs.
Yep.
Field just after musicologist in obscurity, yeah.
Yep.
Also, as we're talking about quizzes and things around that,
Yes.
Michael appears to have a photographic memory, because I don't believe he's memorized all of Ulysses. It's dense and complicated, and
Okay.
if he has a photographic memory, why does he have to print off the Atherton papers? I mean, I realize we haven't textually said that's the case, but that's kind of the implication.
Yeah. The impression I always had was not so much that he'd memorized the whole thing, but that he did know that one passage by heart because he felt it spoke to him personally.
That works, but then he knows the page number, too. I don't know. I know people who've been able to go such and such a, quote, top right-hand corner of a page. Or
Right.
second middle paragraph, left-hand page. It's the specificity of it. I'm sort of going, I feel like he could do that with any page in the book.
I'm not sure. I kind of think that possibly, he's does have attention to detail in certain things. He would probably have noticed the page number after reading it for the 6th or 7th time or something. And he just has enough of a theatrical flair that I think that he might have prepared that whole spiel complete with the page number, possibly thinking that it would impress a teacher at some point when he actually decided he wanted to do that.
Like that. Yeah, no, I can see that. The party trick quote from Ulysses, yeah.
Yes.
And it does actually seem to be one that resonates thematically with a lot of the stuff they talk about. And yeah, isolation and wanting to know more and frustrated by people that aspire to when in fact they don't.
Talking about quotes and such, I'm not sure if we get any Liz journal voiceovers except for the one kind of right after the credits in River Dog.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Is 285 South our first one without a Liz diary entry as an opening?
It could well be, yes. Or as a closer, also.
Yeah, which is interesting because even in Missing, when she had no diary,
yes,
we still got that.
The voiceover, yes. Especially, at the end she was able to say that, oh yeah, I've missed a few entries.
Yeah.
I do absolutely love that quote about how she expected her plans to go for the night and what actually happened.
Well, yeah, and so is life.
Yes. And it kind of, to me, loops back to the end of Leaving Normal, that at this point Liz has left Normal behind.
She really has. She's left the path completely, quite literally, by the time we get to the end of Riverdog. And they're traipsing through the brush.
Yes.
Never mind the road less travelled. There is no road to get to that cave. It's sort of, they practically fall into it.
And she is urging others along several times. She has that great speech to Max about how she's determined to do this for him and will do it regardless of his permission.
Yes, oh, I like that. I'm not asking permission, I'm going anyway. I just came to ask for the pendant.
Yes, and the speech in the motel room where she demands the answers, and then when she knows what the stakes are. It's like, okay, what are we waiting for? Let's go find that dome.
Yeah. Interesting too, I think, that it's Isabel in that moment who goes, "Okay, what do you want to know?"
Yes. When
Because
Max and Michael were quite prepared to do a united front
oh,
against
they were
her.
going to be a brick wall.
But yeah, Isabel
Isabel's spiky,
has
but
this interestingly practical streak that is open to Liz at certain points. We get back to the pilot when Michael was threatening and Max was saying, "Oh, I'm going to give myself up," and Isabel is the one to turn to Liz and say, "Okay, what's your plan?"
yes, yes, there's probably something you could do there with that trio, and she is definitely reason for the aliens.
Yes.
Haven't quite worked out what the two boys are.
Yeah, I think if we go to the Star Trek archetypes, that would make her the Spock and Michael McCoy and Max Kirk.
Oh dear. Okay, well that's going to stick.
Glad I could help.
Yeah, yeah.
And just going back to that motel moment, I found it actually a surprising resonance. Again, I'm going to go to something terribly obscure, but the very first graphic novel by Brian Lee O'Malley, who was the guy who did the Scott Pilgrim
All right.
graphic novels, is called Lost at Sea, and it's this strange and angsty story about a girl from Vancouver on a road trip with some kids from school she doesn't really know, and turns out there's all this backstory about a tour d'affaire with a much older man that had basically just fallen apart when she gets a wrong number call from these kids who are also in San Francisco on spring break, and that's how she ends up going back with them. But in the middle of the book, they are at a motel in a small town, and she opens up to this other girl and tells her this somewhat fanciful story about how she thinks her mother sold her soul when she was young, and possibly also her sisters, and that she thinks her soul is in a stray cat in this obscure small town. And the other girl just kind of sits there and nods and says, "Okay, I'll wake up the guys. We'll go find your soul cat." And I loved that moment.
It definitely has resonances.
Yes. And cue the crazy misadventures of four teenagers in the middle of the night in a small town trying to catch stray cats.
Well, obviously. We all know how easy that is.
Yes. She stares into the eyes of anyone that they manage to catch and tries to feel the pull of her soul.
Well, as one does.
Yes, as one does.
The cat looks away and turns its back, no doubt, in a ground sulk.
Yes.
Yes, but I didn't quite like that hotel room scene. Although it does bring us to Kylie's awful in this episode.
Yes.
He's particularly awful in the hotel room.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really any best call throughout this, but yeah, that just seemed... Happily, we do call it out.
Yes.
Repeatedly, which is good.
Yes, and I do like the way Liz deals with them, especially kind of that very blunt, "This is none of your business."
We are not together anymore, yeah.
Yes. Well, I think to a certain extent it goes beyond that, kind of also kind of by implication, whatever Max is doing here is his business and you have no right to pry
Yes.
into it.
Yeah, by the time Michael throws him across the room, I kind of feel he's earned it.
Yes.
Yeah, this is not the Kyle I remember, so that was a surprise. But we'll get there.
He will have an upward turn during the season, I think.
I think so.
And I really love that hurried bonding between Michael and Maria as the sirens of the highway patrol are bearing down on them.
Yes, you have 20 seconds, convince me.
Yes.
And she does come through.
Yes.
In this instance, under pressure, she does really well.
Yes. Which I'm convinced is mostly because she was drawing from life.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and it's almost touching the way it was kind of something that Michael was even muttering under his breath that actually piqued her interest.
Yes.
That, like, what do you mean this could be the most important day of your life?
Yes, and we develop it a bit more at the hotel room, and I do quite like that. That suddenly they both become vulnerable for each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff building the connection between Michael and Maria here, which I think starts to set it up as a mirroring relationship for Max and Liz.
Without the earnestness, yeah.
Because they do disaffected and ironic so much better.
Yes. But I do like it's not until Maria says, no, do you know what, I've been good and I just want to go home, that Michael suddenly softens. It's okay,
Yeah.
I'll go find food. Because home is, well, Michael's been looking for home all through this season so far. And home isn't Roswell.
Yes. Which is a theme we will revisit again and again with him and turn upside down a few times.
Yeah, we'll look under that stone quite a lot.
Yes.
But, I mean, in that sense, I think it surprised me the first time we watched it as a family, and it came up that his favourite book was Ulysses. But on the other hand, that's also a book preoccupied with home. And getting there, as I recall.
Right.
And looking at it now,
I can never make much out of Ulysses myself, I have to admit.
I think most people can't. Joyce is dense. But I do like that we're starting to round out Michael as a character.
Yes.
He's not just there to explode stuff anymore.
No.
I mean, he's still exploding stuff. Maria's car battery.
Gotta keep your hand in.
Someone has to, yeah.
So yeah, and the ending, I think, is definitely more abrupt than many we've seen before, again, possibly because they have to pack so much into it.
Yeah, this one seems to stop not quite when the story does.
Yeah, but that gives us a chance to open up with some nice hooks later when we start getting to how Michael and Isabel react when they find out about what Max has learned, for instance.
Yes. Thinking of Isabel too, I do quite like how genuinely alarmed she seems to be at the prospect of a romance between Michael and Maria.
Yes.
How quick she is to bolt.
Yep.
She's fine with sitting and waiting until answers come, but not if they're going to be flirting.
No. So probably best for her that she got there before Michael took to extreme measures to calm Maria down.
Yeah. Oh, very definitely. How are we going to do MVPs? Are there 2 this week?
Just a moment. There was one thing that I wanted to think of first. Yeah, I think it was possibly just a bit about the geography that had always surprised me.
Oh, yes, that's all over the place.
Yes. The tracing of 285 South down the map is pretty much as we see it with Valenti.
Yeah. It was the timing that did my head in. Even allowing for them to be delayed, it appears to be middle of the day by the time they arrive the next morning.
Right.
Which it can't be, because they arrive home in time for school. So even if it's early morning, and that sky is very blue...
Right.
They still get home before 8 o'clock? Do we think school starts at 9?
I'm not sure. I mean...
We could be generous
there's
and say
certainly
9?
nothing that makes it clear that they are actually there for the whole day at school.
This is true. But it's the mention of breakfast when their mother comes in.
Right. Yes.
So they're definitely there for first period.
Right. Okay, yeah, that is a little strange.
I mean, it could be 6 in the morning and a really blue sky and school starts at 9 if I'm generous and they drive really, really fast.
Yeah.
And run more red lights than Topolsky. Okay, not just me. Feeling better now.
Yeah. Yes.
Can't do numbers, but that looked odd.
Yeah, it probably would have been better if all of the stuff
It happened at
in
a
Marathon
weekend.
at the Dome had been in the dead of night. That could have been really cool.
Yes, and contributed so much to the noir feeling we're trying to develop.
Yes.
I mean, it's classic Raymond Chandler to knock people in the head in the middle of the night and leave them for dead.
Yes.
Why not? And the sheriff's playing the gumshoe, so
Yeah.
I say go for it.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at the fact that they apparently went from the motel to Marathon and back, all crowded into the Jeep, and then apparently somebody remembers the DeLuca's Jetta, and what,
with its busted engine,
their power to fix it?
Let's assume so, because otherwise they left it with the mechanic while they went to... No, I don't know.
No.
People are sitting in each other's laps at this rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is something that they do run into as the number of characters expands over the show, and they have to start convoying to and from these dangerous escapes.
Yes, as we expand the cast a bit more.
Yep.
Bring more people in on the secret.
Right. Okay, so to get back to your question, I think it probably makes sense to try doing MVPs and ratings for each episode separately.
Okay.
And I've done no notes for this, so we'll see.
Neither have
how
I,
far
so
we
let's see
get.
what happens.
MVP for 285 South.
Well, it's got to be Maria or Michael, doesn't it?
I would tend to think so. They've both got at least one under their belt already, but why not?
The show seems to have most of its attention on them, though. I mean...
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think I would tend to give it to Brendan Fehr just because Michael has so much more
He just has more to do, I think.
driving. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. More agency in the plot and
He's
more to
definitely
pull
most
off with
active
that.
of all of them, yeah.
Yes. And for Riverdog, there's certainly a strong case to be made for giving it back to Shiri Appleby.
Yeah. I mean, she takes the whole Riverdog Vision Quest, whatever it is, in hand.
Yes.
I'd give it to her, unless you have another
Right.
candidate.
Not really. I mean, Katherine Heigl is definitely doing good work.
She is.
And Jason Behr is probably as engaging as we've ever seen him so far. I know, damning with faint praise.
But
But yeah, Shuri.
I think so. I think it has to be. Which brings us to the ratings. What do you give
Ratings.
285 South?
Yes. Do you want to...
Crumbs, right. Okay. I give it 3 unfinished questionnaires.
Right.
I'm assuming they're unfinished after all of that.
Until somebody realized they had to be finished for the website.
Exactly.
And, well, I was thinking of doing something with questionnaires, but I think I will instead give it one giant inflatable alien.
Perfect. I mean, Maria's
And-
mother makes them. We have to acknowledge them.
Yes. Yes.
Riverdog.
For Riverdog,
I think...
I'm possibly going to say 2 glowing hands.
Oh, I was going to say 2 sugar canisters.
Okay.
So those have got to come to about the same thing.
Yes. And since I don't have a script in front of me for the outro, I think that I'll...
We've just completely done away with the curtain this evening, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Pay no attention to the podcasters behind the... Yeah.
If you agree or disagree with us, you can get in touch via Twitter at AliensCast or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/AliensCast or visit our blog at alienscast.com. We've got our Season 1 podcast forum set up to discuss every episode of the podcast and talk about the show.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review over on iTunes and help other Roswellians find us. Our theme music is Epic Trailer Intro by Honey Lemon.
I've got a few special thank yous to say this week. Thank you to Crashdown.com and We Want Roswell Back teams for their kind words and sharing the word around the fandom. And a big thank you to Velm for making brand new and professional looking logos for us. It's been an exciting week. We've gotten likes and retweets from Brendan Fehr, Christopher Palaha, who we won't get to talk about until Season 3, and Melinda Metz.
This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. To find out more, search for Creative Commons.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Claire, and this is Illegal Aliens, a Roswell podcast. We're taking a hiatus next week, but we'll resume on June 12 to talk about Episode 8, Blood Brothers.
In which Alex discovers he has bigger problems than the lack of a garage band scene